You're watching NPO Showcase on GRTV. My next guest is Sarah Harris, an occupational therapist working with Disability Advocates of Kent County. Thanks so much for joining me today, Sarah.
Thanks for having me.
I know Disability Advocates of Kent County covers a lot of different programs and services throughout West Michigan. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the occupational therapy services you provide. First, let's tell our audience a little bit about what occupational therapy means in regard to people with disabilities and what Disability Advocates of Kent County, how they use occupational therapy to help their clients and patients.
So at Disability Advocates, our occupational therapy program is called Adaptive Home Solutions, and our therapists go in to evaluate someone in their home to ensure that they're safe, that they're as independent as possible, and that they can remain in their homes for as long as they choose to.
So you're evaluating their home and making recommendations. Does this cover things like appliances and the way the house is built, and how do some of those changes take place after you cite what you make recommendations to them?
So after intake, one of our occupational therapists will come out and do an assessment with someone in their home, and they'll look at everything that person needs to do in their home and the home environment. And so sometimes fixes are very simple. We can get adaptive equipment, maybe a shower seat or a reacher or a special type of can opener would make things much easier for that person. Other times we do need to look at how the home is designed, and the home could require modifications. So maybe it needs a ramp if someone is using a wheelchair or walker. Maybe someone's bathroom needs to be remodeled so they're able to get into it, or they're able to use their shower versus stepping into a bathtub.
And how do people go about making these adjustments? Do you hook them up with resources? Is it more of a, we think you should do this, and then it's on their shoulders to go out and hire someone to do that work?
No, we follow through with them throughout the plan. So we have 5 therapists and an occupational therapy assistant. We follow up with them. We get them the equipment that they need. We make recommendations for modifications. We can work with them with builders and local resources, and so we can follow through with them until the home is modified however they need it to be.
I know depending on the disability, there's a variety of adaptive technology and equipment that could be used. Tell me a little bit about some of that equipment that you provide or have available for some of your patients.
So for our consumers, we have a pretty extensive equipment loan closet, and we have things available like walkers, wheelchairs, canes, reachers. We have more specialized equipment like adaptive eating utensils, plates, things to help in the kitchen, jar openers, can openers. We have items for people with low vision or with hearing loss, such as flashing doorbells or amplified telephones. Basically, if we don't have it in our loan closet, we typically can find and procure quite a few things that can help with someone who has a disability or is having an issue.
It's a really great resource. You also provide some, caregiver options as well for people that might need other assistance?
We do. So our Caregiver Solutions program is aimed at people who are age 60 or over who are caregivers, or people of any age who are caregiving for someone 60 or over. So this could be someone over 60 who's taking care of an adult, child or relative, or it could be someone my age or your age taking care of an older parent. And we go in, we assess the home, we assess the caregiver and the person receiving the care, and we make recommendations for equipment, for home modifications, and for adaptive techniques to make caregiving easier, less stressful, and safer for everybody. That's
great. So you're providing the resources directly to independent caregivers and allowing them to do their job more effectively.
Correct.
And then I know you have some other services such as the zero-step program that works with home building and local contractors and stuff like that. Tell me about that.
So the zero-step program was kind of conceived in 2005, and that came about because people were inquiring about how to build homes or buildings, but mostly homes, that were accessible and safe and would last for a lifetime. So a home that you could live in regardless of what changes might happen in your family. And in 2008, there were official guidelines developed for Zero Step as a reference for builders, designers, contractors, anyone building a home. They could look at this plan and say, I know that this home is going to work and be comfortable for someone, whether it's a small child or an older adult or someone with mobility issues.
Interesting. Well, that's a lot of things happening, you know, to make sure people are living in a comfortable and safe environment. What kind of ways do you have community members that want to get involved and help? Or would you recommend, you know, do you have like information for builders that want to be a little bit more aware of some of these practices? What's the best step for these people that want to know more?
Oh, absolutely. So anyone, builders, or if you're thinking of having a home built or remodeling, you can always call our occupational therapy department at 616-949-1100, and we can go over that process with you and make recommendations. We can certify your home building plans as Zero Step as well. So
I'm excited to learn a little bit more about this, and I thank you so much for coming in and telling us about some of these really interesting things. I don't really think about, you know, some of these approaches to help our disabled community so much. So thank you for providing them to the community.
thank you.
Sarah Harris, the occupational therapist with Disability Advocates of Kent County, was my guest today, and you're watching NPO Showcase.
Think about your own life. If you had people taking care of you, making all your decisions, what is there to life, really? And almost all the social programs we set up take care of us, or put us away in institutions to be cared for. And I think once I began to discover that, how important it is to help yourself.
We started actually as a project of the University of California, which was then called the Physically Disabled Students Program. And that was started by a number of people with disabilities who were students at University of California.
Ed Roberts and another student were in the hospital here at Berkeley, because for them to be Berkeley students, they had to live somewhere that had facilities where they could have help and where they could live with, you know, everything was wheelchair accessible, and that was the hospital. So after a couple of years, they got tired of that, and they started this whole movement.
But as these people with disabilities made changes on campus, they had some success. They learned advocacy strategies and skills. But then when they began to graduate, they realized that they needed to be able to live in the community, and the community wasn't accessible. So they took the skills that they had learned in terms of advocating at University of California and started the Center for Independent Living in 1972.
This is the second independent living center in the country, right after Berkeley. We've been here since 1976 and served, you know, countless numbers of people. In the beginning, it was really largely people with mobility disabilities. Now, 80% of our client base is mental health.
Well, independent living centers, while we have a variety of services, every independent living center has the core services of advocacy, information and referral, housing, peer counseling, independent living skills training.
You know, when you first get injured, you don't know anything about the services that are available to you. If you have a child with a disability, there's a steep learning curve. And that's one of the things we do, is to let people know what their options are and give them some help with some of their choices.
It's a little scary going back to work after you've sustained a disability, or maybe if you've never worked and always had a disability. So we offer work readiness classes that talk about self-esteem, how to do a resume, how to talk to your employer about your disability.
During the time that I'm at work, I'm also helping people with disabilities. And, because of my experience in life, I can help them out.
I came here and found that there were art classes and writing groups and peer counseling, and I just hopped in and started doing stuff and started feeling better, and what I learned here I can pass on to others, and I do it all the time.
In a broader sense, an independent living center is a place that helps people navigate systems and gives them support for what they need to live a good quality of life in the community.
We provide ramps to houses to increase accessible housing stock.
I help people find attendants in their homes, people who cannot take care of themselves.
We have a youth services department that works with young people with disabilities. We have employment services and other kinds of services that help people fully be able to live in their community.
We're mapping out all the disability resources in the county of Los Angeles and the state. And, basically it allows members of the disability community to go online and share their personal knowledge about the disability features in their area. Wheelchair repair shops, drive-through Starbucks, accessible playgrounds, beach wheelchair locker programs, performing arts opportunities, mental health facilities, sober living facilities that are accessible.
An excellent resource to find the center in your area is the Christopher Reeve Paralysis Resource Center, and I urge you to contact them.
I think that we have made great strides, and I think that the more we are seen, the more we are able to be seen, the easier it is for people to think about us, accept us, understand why there need to be ramps everywhere.
Today there are over 400 independent living centers across the United States that are all independent nonprofits, and there are 29 centers in California.
We've been effective in creating an environment where people can live independently in the community and don't have a need to come back here month to month to get those services. They are independent once their situation is set up.
Now, look at me. I am finding an apartment. I'm living in a dorm right now. I have several friends who are in wheelchairs, and we're all doing our thing.
Yeah, I've been living in this wonderful apartment for 2 years, close to campus, so I can walk. It's the location where there's restaurants, grocery stores, movie theaters, everything within walking distance. So basically, all I need is a credit card, and I can go anywhere I want, and people help me, and yeah, I'm basically independent from everybody.
I'm pretty independent. I'm married. I have a home that I bought with my husband, and I pretty much do everything myself.
That's what independent living centers do, is make sure that all those resources are known to the people that need them when they need them.
And I feel free to do what I want to do, which is really one of the major points of being independent, is feeling free to make your own choices, to live your own life, and I do.
I think centers for independent living are the best kept secret.
Best kept secret in the United States.
Incredibly important in terms of connecting people with disabilities to resources for independence.
Not only talking about independent living, but actively showing folks what that can look like.
If you're lucky enough to live long enough, you will become a person with a disability.
I should know, because when I was injured, they said you can move into a nursing home at the age of 36. So I was fighting this battle alone, and I had no idea what was out there.
I felt so alone. I didn't know who to talk to about what was going on.
I called them in tears, and I didn't know which way to turn.
And they helped me find an apartment. They also taught me Braille.
I needed a ramp.
They helped me with my ramp. They helped me with a shower.
Built a ramp so that I could become independent and live in the community again.
Because after all, it is called Independent Living Center.
helped me achieve my goal as living independently, living back in the community on my own. And I don't consider myself as disabled.
I can't say that there's any identified need that they haven't fully met.
They will work until they find some type of solution for whatever you need.
I don't think they would turn a person down that came into this door.
I would come to my Center for Independent Living and just have the weight of the world, it felt like, on my shoulders. But when I rolled into that Center for Independent Living, I realized these people know exactly what I'm going through. They know exactly how I'm feeling at that point in my life.
It saves you from having a mental breakdown.
It's the one place where we can go where our disability isn't seen as a negative.
To see the potential that you may not even realize you have, but help you discover your own potential.
Because a lot of times we are put aside, or we are told we can't do anything.
You don't have to just sit in the corner somewhere and be still.
They want to have the jobs. They want to work. We don't want to sit home and look at young adolescents all day. I mean, we want things to do.
But people don't want to take the chance. Figured you can't do it, but I've known for a long time that it can, because I went blind managing a McDonald's.
Some corporations and businesses that you go to and they see a person with a disability, they be like, no, we are not hiring.
They're automatically discriminated against without actually knowing what their qualifications are.
Once they see you have a disability, they sort of start backing up.
Nobody wanted to hire a person in a wheelchair.
It's very difficult. I doubt our unemployment rate's below 97%.
It's kind of automatically that they think you can't do the job.
They're fearful. They think that they have to take care of you or stay with you all day to make sure that you get to the bathroom, or they're afraid that you'll hurt yourself.
I was looking for a job for 8 years, and I couldn't buy a job.
It's hard.
The biggest barrier is people being afraid to lose their benefits.
Because of the Medicaid, you can only work so much. And if you work longer, you will lose your benefits.
You're not allowed to. And my question is why and why not?
Because if you do more than that, you could lose Medicaid.
And that's a huge barrier, because then you're still working but living in poverty because you can't make enough money to pay for your attendant care.
That's huge. It's huge. I don't want to lose my Medicare.
And you need the Medicaid in order to buy wheelchairs. A lot of people need medicines.
It's kind of a catch-22 situation. Do I do something and lose those benefits?
I need the waiver in order for me to get to work. But if I go to work, I lose the waiver.
So you are kind of handcuffed as to how much you can make.
So what you're stuck with is low-income, high-turnover jobs.
We want to be able to pay our fair share. And what we propose is that people with disabilities participate in a program, what we're calling Enable Work, which will allow individuals to work, earn competitive wages, and pay into a system that will allow us to remain eligible for our waiver program.
The challenge here is, frankly, we're all living in communities that weren't built for us.
Most of their buildings have stairs.
And I've not been able to go to my interview because I couldn't get my chair up the stairs.
And it's not just physical barriers, it's attitudinal barriers.
Attitude. Oh, this person doesn't see as well as I do, therefore they can't go back in the stock room.
The employer's idea of what I can do.
They just make assumptions.
Ignorance is probably the biggest barrier.
They're only disabled because you think they are.
Just because they don't do the job the same way that you envisioned the job to be done doesn't mean that the job can't be done.
And for them not to focus on what I cannot do, but what I can do.
Taking a chance.
A lot of people that are disabled will probably make the best employees.
Employers taking a chance on individuals.
So I had a deaf worker and a one-arm worker. And they turned out to be my best workers, period.
Best decision I ever made is for, because you have the willingness to work.
I think a person with a disability have a tendency to take more pride in whatever he or she is doing.
It opened up a world of pride, of dignity, and higher self-esteem.
Open your eyes, open your ears, but open your heart as well to see what the possibilities are.
We just want people to know what their rights are and make sure that we're helping them find their voice.
That really opened my eyes up to let me know that I was not the only one on the battlefield for this cause.
You can actually learn how to advocate for yourself.
If I did not have this center, I wouldn't know about standing up for myself, being an advocate for myself.
Here, we don't help people. Here, we support people to help themselves.
Centers are really powerful in helping people with disabilities become their own self-advocate.
And join people from all over Georgia to let our elected representatives know that access to independent living and centers for independent living are really important.
I could call here and I could say I need to advocate for curb cuts because I got to get to the bus stops and I can't go in the street. I don't want to get hit by a car. And they'll say, okay, we got some people and we'll go down there together.
Not to take people where they want to go, but to empower them to go where they want to go.
It's a shame that every area of Georgia doesn't have these centers to provide these services.
We have 9 centers for independent living, and there's a big hole in the middle of the state that is not covered by a center for independent living.
50 of Georgia's 159 counties do not have access to centers for independent living.
I get calls from literally every part of the state, and most of those calls are from people that are in unserved areas of Georgia.
1 million people, that's 14% of Georgians with disabilities who do not have access to the services and programs.
They want to seal in Valdosta area because there's not one there. And we get calls from that area also.
Their budget's just not big enough, and it's not their fault. It's just not there.
We are trying to get some funding so that the existing centers can provide a satellite office.
Outreach offices or satellite offices.
And reaching other people that hasn't been found yet.
If we don't do our due diligence, at the end of the day, there's somebody that's not going to be able to take a shower because they don't have a home mod. There's somebody that's not going to be able to leave their home to go see their child play baseball because there's not a ramp available.
There's so many things that really can greatly enhance the quality of life of an individual and their independence. And that's what it's all about. And I feel like I'm part of a family and a team that's there to assist all of these wonderful people that may have a little something wrong with them, and they call it disability.